Morning, everybody. Saturday shop day, and I've decided we're going to jump back on the aluminum GS Bobber build. Don't have a whole lot else going on in the shop project wise. Going to try and get regrouped this week on a bunch of different stuff, but for today we're going to just work on that. So next piece of the puzzle is our rear lower motor mount. So this is the last machined piece we need for the frame before we can get actually started on making all the frame pieces. So we made the two side motor mounts. One was on video, one I did off video because it's basically just a copy of the first one. I might have showed some stuff on a short about it. So this is going to probably be the most complex part I've ever machined out of one piece. My old mill just was not nice enough to do this type of work, so we didn't do it very often. But with our new mill, we're going to be good to go to make this. So we are going to try and turn this into this. So I just thought it'd be fun. We're going to weigh this thing now, this chunk of aluminum. It weighs about 7 pounds. Yeah, 7 pounds. So after we're done, if I can even get this done today, I'm not 100% sure that we'll get this completely wrapped up today because this is a lot of material to remove. But we're going to get started on it and see what we can accomplish. And then we'll weigh it up at the end and see how much material we removed and what it weighs. I'm thinking it's going to be under 2 pounds for sure. Probably closer to 1 pound than 2 pounds, but we'll see. So, all right, going to hop out there, fire this machine up, and get rolling. All right, so first thing we're going to do is just fly cut this material. Get it cleaned up so we have a nice area to clamp. All right, so we got this one side clean. That'll go against our fixed jaw, and we'll clean up the opposite side. And that will end up being our back and our bottom. So we'll have two nice clean references there, and then we'll start machining from there. So I'm going to get some parallels here. All right, let's see how this does. All right, now that we got our two nice sides, I'm going to just take a quick file on these, knock this burr off the edge so that it doesn't interfere with our clamping. I'm going to change parallels to a little bit shorter one so I got more meat to clamp onto, just so it's a little bit better held in there. And now we're going to start laying this out. So this piece is a little bit long because I want these pieces to be a little extra long, and then we're going to clamp it into the frame jig with the front mounts we made and get an exact dimension to line up, and then we'll do these copes very last. So by making it long, it'll give us that flexibility. We are going to start out by cutting this shoulder here. So I'm just going to give an arbitrary line on here because the first one doesn't matter. And then we know we want to be notched out like this. I know the dimension on the height, And so we'll do the first one, and then we can set all of our measurements off of there once we get to our depth, which is what we want here, which is 1 inch. This is just 1 inch square on this part. So that's kind of my idea. Again, there's probably way better ways to do this. I could actually rough a lot of that out on the bandsaw, save a lot of machine time. And now that I've said that out loud, I think I might go do that. So I'm going to pop this out. I'm going to go cut this on the bandsaw, save myself a lot of machine time. All right, so you can see we hogged this out here. The other cool thing is now we got this nice big chunk that we can use to make something else, essentially for free. So that's hard to beat. Instead of turning it into scrap, we saved it for our next part we need to make. So I have a real power drawbar setup that I bought. Hopefully we'll get that put on here pretty soon so I can quit using the impact gun. But until then, it works. It gets the job done. All right, so first thing we're going to do is just clean this up, get a nice square cut here, get this face. This will be our finished face dimension for what essentially is going to be this. So we'll clean that up, and then we'll get a clean cut on this, and then measure this thickness and get it down to our determined thickness, which is, I believe, 1 inch. Where's my calipers? Yep, 1 inch. So yeah, it was 1 by 1 square. So we're just going to start roughing this thing out, removing some material. All right, so we got our nice machine finish here now. We'll set our Z to 0, and now we're going to measure this, and we have 1 inch 321, so that means we need to take 321 thousandths depth here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to back this up. I'm going to take the full depth. So we're going to take the Z, bring it up 321 thousandths, and then we're going to just slowly inch across, back and forth. I'm doing it this way because it'll let me use our X-axis power feed instead of having to hand crank a bunch. And I've also got the X-axis zeroed. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop it shy of the 0, which is this face. And then we'll go back and make a corner cleaning pass when we're all said and done. All right, so we got our first piece notched out. Real nice finish there. Super happy with that. So next thing we're going to do is come over and cut. Next thing we're going to do is come over and cut this in between recess with the tabs. Our cutter we got in here, I believe it's 1.25 inches. It's 1.1 inches. And this is 400. So we're going to move this over 1 inch 525 because we want 400 thickness here, and we have to account for the thickness of the tool. We've got our 0 set already. We're going to move over 1 inch 525 and then start making our cuts down to our depth. Once we do that, we'll get our width dimension and then work our way over there. So Unfortunately, there's no easy way to cut this out as a big chunk like we did on the end here, so this is going to be a pretty time-consuming process, but it is what it is. All right, so we're just going to work our way in and back and forth all the way down to our 0. Okay, now that we got our first cut here, we're going to go ahead and move now along the x-axis, cutting the full depth in and all the way across, kind of how we did this. That way we can use the power feed and it speeds stuff up a little bit. So we got to do the same thing we did here. So we're going to set our X0, and then we need our width in between here, which is 5" 411. So we're going to go 5" 411 minus 1.125 because we want to take out the thickness of the cutter since we want to cut on the opposite side. 5.411 minus 1.125, and that's going to give us 4.286. So what I'll probably do is cut across to 4.2. We'll leave a little, about 80 thousandths or so of play. And then we can, once we get it all cut out, we can come in and just make a couple front to back cleanup passes to give us our nice finished dimension. All right, so I wrote our 4" 280 down on the vise. It's handy. It just keeps it right in your eye there. And we're going to get to work cutting. This machining stuff is an interesting thing. I'm sitting here doing really what's basically a monotonous kind of task. Back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, doing the same thing over and over again. And I really find it to be rewarding. I'm not sure if maybe it's because the finished product is so rewarding that it makes the monotonous task tolerable, or if maybe I just enjoy doing monotonous tasks. Maybe I should have been a factory worker, just, screwing or bolting a bumper on over and over and over again. I don't know. Not sure what it says about me as a person that I enjoy this, but I do. I could sit here all day and do this. I don't really know why. I'm going to guess and say that it's really because of the finished product. That's really the reward, and so it makes the kind of slow, arduous process rewarding. All right, so we got our center section rough cut. I'm going to go over to the frame jig to get a more accurate measurement than the 3D print is giving us. See how much we need to take for the finishing pass. And it looks like not very much, just a couple of thousandths. Yeah, so it looks like about 27 thousandths. So we will go back to our 480, or 4" 280 rather. I want to screw that up. I'll zero that. I'm going to cut 20 thousandths. And then we're going to take 5 or 6 more. All right, so pop this out, and we're going to go ahead and lay out for our next bandsaw cut, just like we did on the last one. Going to just rough this out, save us some time, and get ourselves a little free chunk of aluminum. So we'll go ahead and bandsaw this off, come back, reset up, and cut our second notch, and we'll be well on our way to getting this thing done. Once we've got that cut out, then we'll have to flip it this way, cut these recesses, and then I got to figure out, I might have to get a new vise that angles. I don't have one, and I kind of need it for something else too, so that may be our stopping point for the day on this particular project. If because we've got an angle here, you can see this angle and this angle. So plus one of the front motor mounts I need to hold on an angle to drill. So, but we'll see what we can come up with. Still plenty to do here, so gonna go ahead and get this bandsaw work done. All right, we got our second big chunk cut out. Just going to get in here, finish off this like we did this side, and then got to figure out what I'm going to do for the next step. All right, we got our 0 set there now. We want this to be 400 thousandths thick like the other side, so we need to take 250 off. Knock off all these sharp edges. All right, next up I got to figure out, I guess we'll cut these reliefs like so. All right, well that worked out. It's like almost the exact size of the vise. So now we're going to come in here. I guess we're going to cut this down to another 1-inch dimension. So this is currently 2 inches. So we're going to just touch off of here because it's easy to do. We're going to 0 our Z, lock this down, come put this up to 0 so we can pick it up and put it back. And I guess we should go in here, get our X0. The Y doesn't really matter. This is about 1 inch, so this cutter should take it off in one cut. We'll move our table down to the end. Get everything locked down. Get our Z-lock, we'll fire it up, start taking some cuts, about 50 thousandths at a time. Everybody, quick interruption in the video here. I just wanted to mention our channel is growing. It's a slow but steady growth, and I really appreciate everybody who takes the time to watch us. I do notice that about 75 to 76% of our views come from non-subscribers. So if you enjoy what we're doing, click that subscribe button. It really means a lot to us. It helps support the channel, lets us know that we're headed in the right direction, doing the stuff that people are enjoying. And if you are doing that, please subscribe. Leave us a comment. Let us know what we're doing right. Let us know what we're doing wrong. We want to improve constantly and put out the best content that everyone will enjoy. So sorry for the interruption. Appreciate you guys, and back to the video. All right, well, we've got our piece all roughed in. This little angle here, I think I can cut with a 45-degree cutter. So I'm going to switch out our cutter. So we got a countersink bit. Get this fired in here. See how this will do to cut that angle. It's not going to cut our long angle. We're still going to need some kind of an angle clamping vise, I believe, but we'll see how this does. Go from there. All right, well, that wasn't the cleanest cuts ever, but it did get the job done. I do have to say, I don't think there's anything in the world that makes a mess like a milling machine. The last cut we're going to have to make is, oh, I wonder, no, I don't think I can hold this suitably. Let's see how this, if I sit this on those, nah, it just wants to, if I sit this like this, man, it feels pretty strong. All right, I'm going to change this cutter out and take a few light cuts. Maybe I'll do it with the fly cutter. No, I'm going to do it front to back with the 1 1/8" end mill we've been using, which is really cuts nicely, and see if I can get this to do what we want without it shaking the part around too much. I'm a little bit leery. We have got a lot of time in this part. We don't want to yank it out of the vise and screw it up at the last operation. So, all right, so I'm just going to knock a bunch of these sharp edges off. So all we got to do now is get these holes drilled in here, which is going to be another interesting deal to do. I may just lay them out and drill them on the drill press. I got to think about that honestly for a little bit, because the whole location is important, but it's not really like crazy critical, honestly, as long as they're in the same spot and in this general direction. I may break this piece off of this 3D print. I wonder if I can do that. Yeah, nope, it broke where I didn't want. But anyway, I can 3D print this little portion and use it as a template to lay out my hole here, which I might do that. All right, guys, so we're going to just start to delete some of these pieces here, if I can get that to work. Oh, all right, let's see. If we move back in the timeline, there we go. Even easier. Perfect. So we have this piece now, which I'm going to export. And that will allow us to 3D print this. We will get this 3D printed up and use it to mark our motor mount that we machined today. All right, guys, that's going to be a wrap for today. We're going to get that template printed. It'll be nice. I can lay it on here to line up the drill holes for this, which should be perfect. Otherwise, I am like super pumped on this. Have never made a piece like so complex. Like I said, it's not perfect. There's a few little inconsistencies, but overall, it's friggin' awesome. We need to weigh this thing. I wonder where the scale went. Oh, here it is. Actually, you know what? I'm not going to say what it weighs. We'll have a little fun here. The original piece weighed 7 pounds. let us know in the comments what you think it weighs now. And we'll go Price is Right rules. Closest person without going over, we'll send you some kind of prize pack. I don't know what it'll be, but it'll be something fun. So we'll have a little fun today. Because like I said, I'm really pretty pumped to have made this piece. All hand crank on a manual machine. So, and we'll let it run for a week, I guess. And we'll announce next week in next week's video how much it weighs. So... actually, before I get out of here, though, I'm going to quickly I got to make a printout on the computer, and we'll come back and talk about the cost on this. It's been a few weeks since we did this project, and I actually forgot about that, but I know we've been doing the running cost on this thing on each video. So let me grab that. I'll come back and give you guys that info before we get out of here. All right, guys, so we're back with our info. Not a lot to add this week. Off video, we machined the right-hand motor mount most of the way. I still need to get a different vise to hold that, I think, to drill the holes I need to. But anyway, so that was 1 hour there, $140. The work today, we spent 3 hours machining this part. The material was already accounted for. So that was $420. Calculator, we got 140 plus 420 plus... Also this week, off camera, I cut the piece of rectangle tube that's going to be our down tube in our frame, and went over to some buddies of mine that have a slip roll, and we put an arc in that tubing because I don't have the equipment to do that here. So that was $40 for that piece of material, and I gave them $40 for rolling it for me. So for this week, we spent $640 towards the bill, bringing our grand total to $81.95.72. So yeah, this bike is going to cost a fortune, I think. A lot of it is labor, obviously. I don't know. Like I said, I found this interesting. I hope somebody else does too. And something else I want to throw out there is, do you guys think we should make this bike polished or brush finished? Because if we're going to polish it, we need to pre-polish a lot of these parts before we weld the frame together. It would be an insane amount of work. I don't know if I even want to do it, but I'm curious what people think. And possibly maybe do it like two-tone, like some polished with like brush finish on the tins or something. I don't know. Just wanted to throw that out there. Let us know what you think about that. We're going to get out of here. Appreciate you guys as always, and we hope to see you next time at Gattis Garage.